Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Chasing Goals podcast. You're here with Nugget, as always. We've got a special guest on today. How are we going today, Eli?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, how's everyone doing? My name's Eli. I'm from New York. I go to out to school out in New York. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. And yeah.
Yeah, mate. Awesome to have you on. Like, I've been getting through your Instagram and just the stuff you're doing, your workouts and all that sort of stuff. I think the community and the listeners will get a lot out of kind of what you have to say and what you're kind of building to, and what, like, your social media and all that sort of stuff. So, do you maybe want to kind of touch on maybe even how you kind of got into fitness? What kind of drove you into that sort of career, or that on that sort of the bodybuilding and all the stuff you're doing there?
Yeah, yeah. So it was around 2019, I want to say. Yeah, like 2019. But like it was before COVID even happened. So I just started working out like because I came here to Miami. I was staying with my brother-in-law and my sister. And my brother-in-law is like big into working out and he loves it. He was the one that kind of got me into it, said like, "Hey, start coming to the gym with me." And I was here for like the summer of 2019. Yeah, summer of 2019, I was here, and then I went back home to Phoenix after staying here for the summer. I just spent the summer here in Miami. I went back home, continued to work out. I just like fell in love with it kind of within the first like month. It's like what they say is like, it takes 3 weeks to make a habit, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna try this out for 3 weeks and let's see if I like it or not. So I tried it for 3 weeks, and I absolutely loved it. I was loving the results, the feeling I was getting from working out. Started kind of changing my diet up, eating healthier, and within the first year of training, I had built a significant amount of muscle mass. But I'd say a lot of that first year of training was wasted on misinformation and not really knowing what to do. Because my first initial um, goal when I started lifting was to lose weight, to lose body fat.
Yeah.
But I kind of didn't really know like, oh, it's calories in, calories out in order to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like if I had known that like a year ago, it's like I could have been like where I was like 2 years from into training.
Yeah.
So after I found that out, I really started taking the diet portion very seriously. Started losing like significant amount of body fat, and at this point it was like around 2020. It was like around like end of 2020, like went December slash like October, November, and December. That's like when I started cutting, and
Yeah.
then in January, that's when I really started to like look good. Like I was probably like sub 10% body fat. And then one of my when I was just like working out, like I just realized, like I'm really lean right now. Like I was probably like 7%, 6% body fat.
Yeah.
And I saw people who were competing in bodybuilding shows. So I decided, okay, like, why not,
Yeah. For sure.
Um, coached myself through the entire show. Like in terms of dieting, in terms of the training, everything was coached through myself. So I made my diet. I did the whole prep. I did the night before prepping, like prepping for the show, like
Y-
such as like water manipulation, sodium manipulation. There's like a lot of stuff that goes into peaking when you get on stage. Like that last week of training, it's like there's a lot that goes into it, making sure you can look your best, especially when you've been dieting for like a long period of time. You start to look flat and depleted. So you need to be able to peak and look the best you possibly can on stage. But I feel like bodybuilding, it's kind of a counterintuitive sport, so it's like they want you to look as big and filled out as possible, but also as dry and shredded as you possibly can. So, and those are two very counterintuitive things. Like you can't really have both.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to introduce sodium manipulation, water manipulation. So it's like, like for instance, the night before, I ate like a burger, some fries, like a lot of like sodium, ketchup, all that kind of stuff. But I drank zero water, so that way like the carbs could just suck up all the water that was left in my body, like
Yeah.
all
Okay.
the water retention I was holding. And then the next morning I would wake up just dry as hell. And And then, I coached myself through that whole thing. First show, I got second place in teens, fifth in true novice, or sixth in true novice, and I believe eighth in open class. And then after that, I obviously wanted to get bigger. I was fairly skinny at that point. So I took like a year. I took like a year to like bulk,
Yeah, yeah.
and like to like kind of like lean bulk. And then I competed in my next show again. And then I competed in a show in New York, which was around 4 months ago. I want to say it was back. Yeah, it was back in April. Yeah, back in April. So yeah, back in April, I competed in the show again. Trained, prepped myself through the entire show. Same thing. And then I kind of just fell in love with competing along the way. But it all kind of just started with like, me simply like saying like, okay, I'm lean. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's man, that's a great intro and kind of showing like where you're at and kind of where you've come from. That's awesome. And there's a lot of things I kind of wanted to touch on, but the first thing I thought would be good to touch on is that initial phase. How did you kind of transition from when you were kind of like, oh, I'm in the gym, but I'm not kind of doing it right type thing. Not doing it right, but you know what I mean. Like you haven't kind of grasped kind of what's going on. You're just kind of in the gym. You like you said, like calories in versus calories out. You weren't kind of doing that sort of stuff. Where did you kind of make the transition? Yeah, misinformation. Where did you kind of make the transition, and who kind of helped you and pointed you into the right direction?
Well, obviously, I did a lot of my own research.
Yeah,
Like going online, just simply like typing in, like, I feel like a lot of people when they first see me or feel like, they see me in the gym or like, they ask me on social media, like, yo, can you give me some advice? They want like, hey, how do I get in shape? It's just like, that's not an easy question to answer. It's like there's so much information. It's like I'm still learning today. Like I've
oh
been
yeah,
doing this for 3.5 years, and it's like I'm still learning every day. Like, oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that piece of information about the body. But it's like there's so much information that goes into it, into just like the smallest detail that it just took years of just like studying information, talking to different people in the gym, out of the gym, professionals on social media, friends, other competitors, like, and just like years of just like built up knowledge, I guess.
yeah, for sure, mate. I'm the same. Like I'm 31, so I've been kind of doing this for 10, 11 years, and it's kind of crazy. You're thinking, like, when I was young, a little bit younger, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty much, I think I know everything. But then as you get older, you're like, I know nothing. There's so much more for you to learn. Like, it's just crazy. Like, but when I was a bit younger, I was like, nah, I know what I'm doing. But nah, I had no idea. I look back then, I'm like, what were you doing? Like, come on, what were you doing, mate?
Trust me, I literally look at the same thing. Like I look back at videos from like a year ago and I'm like, what was I doing or what was I thinking? Like, or it's like the same thing with like, especially like your physique. You look back at pictures that you posted like a year ago and you're like, how did I think I looked good here?
And then I guess the next thing, when you kind of from that first show to the second show, what was the obviously you've kind of the body fat percentage and stuff might have been similar, but how was the difference in like weight? And then maybe can you take us through that transition from when that first show you did to the second show and kind of how you put on that muscle, and then maybe what were the difference in weight you were at?
So my first show, I was really light. I was 155 pounds.
Yep.
And I'm like 5'11, so that's like a pretty
Hey.
low weight. And so I came in at 155 pounds, very lean, very shredded. Like I got a body fat test done like 2 weeks before the show when I was in LA. Because I went to LA and I went to Zoo Culture and I met up with actually one of my influencer friends who's I'm very close with now.
Yep.
Her name's Delaney, Delaney Fit on Instagram.
Yep.
Very very big girl, very big influencer. She actually just hit 100K.
Yeah.
And she's actually competing in a show this weekend, for the first time. So yeah, so I was with her. We were out in LA. We got a body fat test done. It was like a hydrostatic testing,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
my results came back at around like 3 to 4% body fat. Like I was like, yeah, I was like like
Yeah.
ridiculously
Yeah.
lean at that point.
It's crazy.
Um, and I think I cut a little too hard for that first show.
Yeah.
And came in a little too lean. I would have rather come in with more size than like being shredded.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, you learn, you live and you learn.
Sure.
So I came in at 155 pounds after the show. I completely screwed up. You're supposed to have like one meal after the show, just one meal after the show, and then the next day hop back on your reverse diet. Reverse
Yeah.
dieting is just basically, dieting slowly and increasing your calories as time goes on so that you don't gain a ridiculous amount of water weight and body fat, because
Absolutely.
you have depleted your body for such a long period of time. It is not used to all the food that you're going to be giving it. So you can't just hop back on to like a normal diet after that, right?
Yeah.
I screwed up there. I I just ate whatever I wanted. I was eating like everything a day. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna transition right into a bulk. I went from eating like 1900 calories before the show to then switching up the next day to eating like 3900 4000 calories a day. Um, Very big mistake because
Yeah.
I gained 25 pounds in the span of 2 weeks.
Oh god. That's
So I
crazy.
went from 155 pounds to 180 pounds. So yeah, I was and I looked ridiculous. Like, I still had, like, abs, but I was, like, bloated like a
Yeah,
water buffalo. Like,
yeah.
my face before the show was, like, so lean. Like, my face had just, like, puffed up. My jawline was gone. My abs looked, like, horrendous. Like, I felt horrible. Like, I was so self-conscious.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so I obviously, then after that, I reverse dieted and kind of like, did the cardio I needed to do and did the proper way.
Yeah.
And then reversed out of that and got into a better physique. Then, it took the next couple months to kind of bulk up, gain a little more size, obviously gain more information. And then into the second show, and my diet was very similar going into both shows. I've kind of one thing about dieting, I say for a lot of people, and even training, is that people think that there's like a one size fits all approach, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case. You need to like everyone's body is different. Everyone's genetics are different. Everyone's body is going to respond differently to different things. Like for instance, for me, I do a training program which is a bro split. So I do one muscle group a day, 6 days a week.
Okay.
Which
I was gonna
which
ask
if you
what you do, so that's good. Yeah, let's touch.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, which is it's a very controversial topic, right? A controversial training routine. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's not optimal for building muscle. It's not optimal for this, that." It's like more optimal is hitting two muscle groups a day or push pull legs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but honestly, I've just found that that's what's worked best for me. So it's like, but if I was like training a client, I would never recommend that they do my workout program.
Nah, because they probably absolutely tanked by that. They do legs the whole day. They might not be able to walk for 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like so like, for instance, like today, right? I did chest, right? So I hit chest for just an hour straight of weights and then like for an hour and a half of just weights with just chest.
Yeah.
And then my chest is gonna be sore for the next like 4 days until I hit it again.
Yeah.
Um, so like I find that that's what's worked best for me as far as building muscle and like getting lean and all that kind of stuff. So my training has kind of stayed fairly the same. I've switched it up, obviously, increased the weight. I always train with progressive overload.
Yeah.
I try to train with some volume, with a little bit of volume every now and then, especially when I'm going into a show. And then, but my diet as I've gone into each shows has been pretty much the same, which just starts out like, like I usually every show I've signed up for, I've signed up around like 9 weeks out.
Okay.
And my diet kind of just started, normal caloric deficit, pretty normal diet, like any diet I would do, just if I wanted to get a little leaner. I was eating probably around 2100 calories a day with like 2150, 2000, 2200, eating around 190 to 200 grams of protein a day,
Yeah.
with like
Awesome.
250, 270 carbs, and then like pretty low on the fat end, probably like 15% fats.
Yeah. Okay. So would you how far under your maintenance would that be? Is it about 500 calories, or what do you kind of try to stick at?
So my maintenance is roughly around like 2800, 29.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like around 600 calories. Like so so yeah, like like I try and stay, at a good amount.
Yeah.
And I feel good at that number, like eating, I don't feel like depleted really. I don't feel bad. But once I go below that though, that's when things start to get troubled.
Yeah.
So around 2 weeks out, I want to say a week and a half out, that's when I cut out all forms of carbs.
Okay.
Um, and at this point, I'm still really lean. Like I'm like, like this is just like the last portion of getting
Yeah.
ready for the show. So I cut out all forms of carbs. So literally, like I'm having like for my last show, I literally was having like 50 grams of carbs per day, and all those are like trace carbs. I literally go purely to keto, at that point, basically.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, so I was eating like a ridiculous amount of protein, like just literally meats for every meal. I think like my highest carb meal was like my pre-workout meal because I needed carbs before the gym because I was
Yeah,
so mentally drained. Like people don't understand when you get that level of lean, you like literally cannot function.
I was actually going to ask you what was that like, getting that lean, but then also trying to. So you training all the way. How's it work? Do you, let's say you're a week to go into your comp. Are you still obviously hitting? You're still gymming all the way up like you'd normally been to the day before. Is there any back off, or is it?
There is some back off. A week out, you're probably not training everything to failure, like you normally would, because you don't want to get sore and fatigue yourself before the show and get sore and then not be able to flex as hard and pose as good on stage.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, you're still training. Like usually the show check-ins are usually on Fridays. And then the show is on Saturday. So I usually train up until Thursday, and
Yeah.
then
Okay.
Friday I don't train, and then Saturday I compete.
You're good to go. Yeah. Okay. That's. I was always wondered like because obviously like with I spoke to a few powerlifters and they're kind of some of them were saying they give themselves they might do a heavy session like 10 days 9 days out, and then they'll do some bits on the way in, but that's kind of like their last sessions like 10 9 days out, and then they're kind of peaking for that 9 8 day kind of into their event, which is so I was interested to see kind of what bodybuilders were doing and that sort of thing. But how do you find kind of your gym performance, I guess, and what's your kind of mindset when you're, probably, let's say the last 5 weeks going into a bodybuilding comp, you're obviously cutting weight. How's your gym performance? Obviously, are you still lifting the same weight, or is it harder to lift the same weight? Is it kind of going down as you're kind of cutting the weight?
Yeah, so obviously, when you're in a caloric deficit, you are going to lose strength. That's
Yeah.
inevitable. Um, for me, I find with my genetics, I actually tend to retain muscle very well. Because I started off at a higher body fat percentage. I started off pretty like a little bit like I wasn't like a fat kid. I was just like a skinny fat kid, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I find that like on a cut, I don't lose a lot of muscle. Like compared to someone who started off skinny, bulked up, and then they're cutting for a show, like they're gonna lose a little bit more muscle probably
Yeah.
because their genetics are naturally to be skinny. Um, so but my strength obviously does take a hit.
Yeah.
5 weeks out, I'm not really seeing much of my mental cognition is fine. Like I feel okay.
Yeah.
Um, there's obviously days where like, oh damn, like I wish I could eat that donut or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that. You obviously have those days. I mean, come on, like
That's every day
you're
for me.
dieting for you're like you're dieting for nine
Yeah.
weeks. Like it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, that's yeah, awesome, man. And I think that's kind of I guess when people are it was just that I guess that mental thing of when you're tired of getting to the gym. What's kind of pushing you? Obviously you've got the contest, but what's going through your thought process that you're tired, you're depleted, that sort of thing, but you've got to go to the gym. What gets you there?
So that's actually a really good question. Honestly, there were some days on prep where I would just like wake up and I just be like, I do not want to go to the gym today. Like I do not want to train today. Like I'm tired, I'm depleted, I'm everything like this. That I don't want to train. But the way I see it is you've got to think about your end goal, right?
Yeah.
So like what is your end goal? And for me, obviously that was my show. It's like so you have to think, what is my end goal? Am I there? Am I at this end goal? No. So why would I not go to the gym today? Like you are not at that end goal, so why are you going to stop? It's not about like, a lot of people ask like, oh, how do you have the motivation to do this? How do you have the motivation to do that? It's like who said I have motivation? Motivation has nothing to do with it. If you rely on motivation your entire
Mm.
life, you are not going to get anything done in your entire life. It's all based on discipline,
Mm.
being disciplined enough to do the things you don't want to do in your life.
Yeah. That's
you know,
all,
but it's like you just know that that reward is going to pay off.
for sure, man. That's there was a couple of things that I was listening to something like a couple of months ago, and that was like exactly. It's not motivation that keeps you going, because that motivation's going to come and go. It's discipline that kind of gets you into the gym or gets you whatever you're kind of doing every day. It's that discipline that gets you there, not the like the motivation might get you there, 2 days of the week, but the discipline gets you there for the other 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but that's awesome. I was going to touch on something else, but I totally just forgot what we were talking about. So let's move into kind of your we'll cut back to the training, but let's move into kind of like your social media and your like the business stuff you're doing, because I was looking at it's quite cool what you're doing and your Instagram and all that sort of stuff. So do you want to maybe take you through, maybe give your hand on that sort of thing so I can put it down, and then go through kind of how you've kind of built your business and what you're doing in that sort of realm.
So for me, I started like really taking social media seriously. Like when I first started training, obviously I was posting, my fitness journey. I was like, why not? Like, it'll be cool to turn my page into a fitness page.
Yeah.
And then and I was just like, all right, like so I wanna keep posting my content. And then when COVID hit, that was when I was really like, all right, I want to start taking like, my social media really intensely. That was when I kind of started growing on social media, when I started posting more, just staying consistent, posting stuff that people wanted to see, like at home workouts, motivational stuff.
Yeah.
And people really resonated with it, and like I started to build up a following and stay consistent, use hashtags, like I did anything I could in order to build up that following, to really like to try and reach more people, right? And then after that, I obviously talked to other creators. Like that was one of the biggest things that helped me was, talking and collaborating with other creators, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, you know someone that's like, also doing social media, collab with them. It's like you're friends with them, collab with them on social media. Be like, hey man, like, we're both into this social media thing. Let's collab. You're combining both of your followings right there.
Yeah.
It's like his fault, like that person's following is going to see your content, and it's a mutual beneficial thing. So it's like so that's one thing I say is collabing is something that can really help you. And then also just staying consistent, honestly. People I feel like they want fast results nowadays. So it's like, okay, I've done this for a week, so it's like I know
Yeah.
it's not paying off. So it's like I'm just gonna give up, right? It's like no, you have to stay consistent for like months, like years even sometimes. Like and then but then you'll realize eventually like wow, all that time actually paid off, and I am where I am right now. So once I started obviously growing a following, I started to try to market myself any way I could, saying like, hey, like, like I'm a trainer, like click the link in my bio, all this kind of stuff. Also, one thing that was very beneficial to me growing a following was I started to get sponsors. People
Oh
started
yeah.
reaching out saying like, hey man, like, like, do you want to promote our products, or do you want to get promoted with our company? And the first like long-term sponsorship I had was with a company called Iron Fit. And I was with them for a while, and that's actually my friend Delaney, who I was telling you about. Her and I were both on that supplements agency, on that supplements brand together. We both decided to kind of take a step back from that company, like a couple months in. Just we realized, it wasn't the right fit for us, wasn't
Yeah, for sure.
something that was really beneficial to our careers in the social media platform. And then so I started doing little small promotions here for other companies, like charging for those, getting money off that.
Yeah.
And then I also had like I was training people on the side. And then obviously I my friend Delaney, she got sponsored with Alpha Lion. I talked to her and I said like, hey, like how'd you get this done, whatever, because Alpha Lion is a pretty big company right now
Yeah.
within the social media world.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, yeah, yo, here's the guy's information, text him, see if you can get a sponsorship. And just like that I got a sponsorship. So it's like having that connection to
Yeah.
Delaney helped me to get a lot of the opportunities of where I am now.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things within social media is connections, just like it is within the real world. Knowing who do you know, what connections do you have, So it's like I have connections to some influencers who, like, they help me out with certain things, give me advice, edit my photos, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just taking advantage of those things, being and just being active on social media, and you slowly start to grow, taking advantage of all the aspects on social media. Like when Reels came out, I started hopping on that right away. I started taking advantage of that, and that's when I grew from like 10,000 followers to like 30,000 followers. Reels is like one of the right now, I'd say Reels is literally the best platform on Instagram in order to grow following. Same as TikTok. TikTok is a great way to grow following, but if you're trying to grow following on Instagram, Reels is your best friend.
Yeah.
Finding relevant hashtags to use. Trending sounds is a big thing. Trending sounds, using the trending sounds that everyone's using to create reels, make a reel out of that. And then obviously, once you have that audience, marketing yourself, going out of your way, DMing your followers, saying, hey man, just like, it's like you get a new follow every day, DM 10 people, say, hey man, saw that you followed me. How's your fitness journey going? And then you talk with them, have a little conversation with them, see what you can help them out with. If they don't need a trainer, cool. You
Yeah.
at least you were, you made a connection with one of your followers. They're like, oh wow, he's a nice guy. He took time out of his day to talk to me.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like some of them were like, oh man, I'm really having a struggle with my diet, or like I'm really not seeing results. They're like, oh, I'm a trainer, if
Yeah.
I'm here,
Yeah.
if you need my help. And I think that's also a lot of people's biggest downfall is waiting for clients to come to them as a trainer. Like, especially clients, people who have like a big following. They wait for clients to come to them. It's like, no, you have to be the one to go out and find people. Like
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm a trainer. Like, hey man, like how you doing? Obviously don't cut right to the chase. You gotta, be like, hey man, I'm a trainer. Let's get
Yeah.
to work. Like,
Here's my bank
like,
details.
yeah, here's my bank details. Venmo me real quick. Like, or like, no, but so you just you make a connection with your followers either way. So it's like,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
those followers, even if they didn't want to do training with me, or if they were like, oh, I don't need help with training right now. It's like, cool. I already right there. I just built, like, last night. Literally, I was on the phone call with a phone call with a guy. And funny enough, he was from Australia.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, and he was talking about, like, training, and he's like, yeah, man. He's just like, honestly, right now, I'm not financially like stable enough to be starting a training with you. I was like, all right, that's fine, like no problem, man. And he's just and at the end of the phone call, he was just like, dude, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to just like to just speak to someone, like to speak to me and just talk with me. And I was like, yeah, of course, man. It's like, I was like, the social media, this fitness community is a family, bro. We all kind of just got to support each other here. And he said, like, yeah, man, I've just been watching your content for so long. He's like, I show your content to a lot of my friends, and I'm like, I want to look like this, right? And I find that super humbling, like, to be able, like, because 3 years ago I would have never imagined that I would be at the spot where I am right now, where I
Yeah.
literally have like thousands of people on my social media who are like, I want to look like this guy.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like such a crazy thing to wrap around my head, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's a very humbling experience, honestly. Like that's why I love doing what I do.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome. I think, and one thing you said there, which I think is, was like would be benefit to people, especially when they're reaching out to people, is also like offering them like what you've said. They kind of see that you're a trainer, so you can be like, hey, like I'm reaching out. Thanks for following, blah blah blah. But if you ever need something, I can help you with this or that, rather than just reaching out and going, hey, can I take this from you? Hey mate, like I do this. Can you kind of yeah, if you ever need to help out with any fitness tips or anything, I can help you out with that type of thing. Just offering that little bit of,
That's exactly what I
for
do.
sure. How good, mate. So what I'll we'll touch on now, maybe going back to your training, just kind of what are you like programming your training? So you obviously you say you've done it all and all that sort of stuff. What have you kind of learned programming your training and all that sort of thing? And how do you kind of do you do like RPEs? Are you taking everything to failure? How are you training? How are you kind of structuring your training at the moment?
So currently, I've been kind of I'm more focused on building more mass and getting bigger. And that's more focused around going to failure and lifting heavier. When I'm trying to get leaner, I kind of focus on higher volume, higher sets, and reps, and but still also training to failure.
Yeah.
Here it's more, I'm here more focused on, doing like 8 to 10 reps, like strict reps. But I'm always about like a strict form, like have strict, good form, and doing quality sets. Like not like, like if I'm doing 10 sets, 10 reps of curls, I don't want to be like swinging the weights up. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want to be like,
Losing
it's like,
balls,
I
yeah.
want to be like, I want to be strict with my curls and like, and that's how you're gonna like focus on growing the muscle actually, like and also just feeling that mind muscle connection. Like one thing that a lot of people actually talk to me about is like, my back, because I like my back is one of my like my strong points when it comes
Yeah,
to my physique. A lot of people are like, oh, like how do you gain like mind muscle connection to your back? Because that's a big issue that a lot of people face is mind muscle connection,
for sure.
when it comes to their lats. And I say that it's honestly just like about training that muscle consistently, with good form, strict form, and not focusing so much on lifting heavy weight, more focusing on quality sets, and then you will build that mind muscle connection.
That's great advice, man. 'Cause I was just thinking about that the other day. Like, I feel a lot of people, especially newer people that go into the gym, they're trying to lift as heavy as they can. They might be trying to impress someone, or they just want to. It's more just for an ego thing or whatever it is. But they're not kind of targeting the right muscle groups, or you know what I mean? Like they might be just not feeling it where they should, and at that stage, maybe in the first like couple of weeks it doesn't matter, but as you kind of grow and progress into this gym thing, you want to be able to feel those like each muscle group as you're kind of using them.
Yeah, and like that's why I super preach like just focusing on quality sets and reps, focusing on strict form. Obviously, it's like if you're training to failure, form is
Yeah,
gonna break
yeah,
down.
a little bit. Yeah,
Um, Form is gonna break down a little bit, but like obviously keeping it as strict as possible, and then and starting out with strict form and just training to failure because if you're training to failure, you're like not letting the muscle get a rest, and you're training that muscle to absolute failure. Because what are you doing when you're in the gym, right? You're tearing down your muscles.
yeah,
People think you're making your muscles bigger when you're in the gym. It's like no, you're actually tearing your muscles down. You're tearing the muscle fibers down. And what builds those muscle fibers back up is protein, carbs, is the food that you mostly protein. And but the food that you regenerate that muscle is how you regenerate that muscle.
yeah,
So it's like that's why they say, right after you work out, that's when you should have like a high protein meal so that you have that anabolic window, right?
yeah.
So it's like, have a meal right after you're working out, generally high protein and high carb, and just focusing on, obviously I think a lot of people that where their biggest mistake is just focusing on their training and not focusing so much on their diet. And it doesn't matter what your results where the results you're looking for is, whether that be strength, whether that be athleticism, whether that be a better physique, lose fat, gain muscle. I think diet is a big component when it comes into that, and I think I preach, especially for physique, it's 80% of results.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what people like don't understand. You can literally do I guess the exact same program, but if you're in a calorie deficit compared to a calorie surplus, you're just going to see different results, and
100%.
yeah, so that's just kind of, I think people think they get sometimes, and that's obviously when you're newer to the gym, and that's what this podcast is about, helping new people in the gym or in business or whatever. It's that yes, we got to go to the gym, but we've also got to kind of, you don't have to, like, I don't say if I ever, because I used to do training, I don't do too much of it anymore, but with the clients I had, it was like, if you're new to the gym, I'm not going to have you come training 4 times a week and then have you going straight into a massive calorie deficit when you've never done it before. It's just we want to ease them into it. If we can get them, if they've never been to the gym, get them there once a week, and then get them there twice a week, and then get them there 3 times a week. Then we can say, all right, let's up your protein, or let's do this, let's do that. Just as little goals that can kind of little like you said, what was it, 3 weeks to build a habit? It's just little things that kind of, and then they start getting them to the gym and start eating better, and then bang bang, and then we can kind of do different things after they're kind of getting consistent with that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's just it is just a lot to do with people nowadays wanting fast results. That's why they're like, oh yeah, like let's start up and like going hard, like burn the midnight oil, right? Like go crazy in the gym. But it's like no, you want to start off slow and then like gradually go into it. But everyone wants fast and instant results, instant gratification, right? That's exactly what it is with social media, right?
Yeah.
When you post a picture, you get instant gratification. You get like hundreds, thousands of people liking, commenting, and all these kind of things. But you got to just like, and even for me, like sometimes like I get in my head, I'm like, oh man, like like I want these fast results, like like damn, like how do I get shredded real quick? And it's like, no, you got to remember this takes time. Like this isn't like
Yeah.
a fast process. I feel like
That,
it's just it's kind of our default
oh, for
nowadays.
sure. And that's what I was thinking about before that I forgot about when you were saying about in the social media thing. It's not instant. It's time and effort and weeks and months and years of work um, to build that audience or to get those results. You see the people on Instagram or like bodybuilders. That's not they haven't been in the gym for 2 weeks. That could be 7-8 years worth of like grinding there, But that people might be new to their profiles and they see a quick snippet of that photo. They're like, oh, I want to do that in 6 weeks, and then you've got those 6 to 8 week things.
Yeah, and that's exactly why, like for instance, I've definitely gotten my fair share of steroid comments of people saying like, "Oh, he's on steroids, he's on tren or trenny this, trenny that, or whatever. He's on steroids." Like I definitely get my fair share of that. But it's like people are like, for instance, when I post a reel on social media, it's like showing like where I started 3 years ago and where I am now. It's
Yeah.
like people are seeing two photos and thinking like, "Oh yeah, he did this so quickly." It's like people don't realize the amount of time this took for me to take, like the months and months of training, dieting, eating, the research I had to do, the things I had to do to get to the point of where I am now.
Yeah,
But
that's
people don't understand that, and they think it was just done in a day.
yeah, and it could be it could be things you can touch on, but yeah, that's I think when people are just kind of skimming through things, they don't see the work that's being put behind the scenes. They're just seeing the surface. So that's actually I wanted to touch on, and that was a good one. Just obviously as you've built your social media and your business platform, how do you deal with like the hate or those comments? Do you speak to someone about it, or is it something you've always been good at dealing with, or how do you deal with that sort of stuff?
So for me, I honestly try not to really take it. I don't really let it affect me. I've never really been someone like I was bullied growing up. So it's like I definitely have had my fair share of in-person hate and like
Yeah,
and going through that kind of stuff. Um, and For me, I guess it would just be like I don't really respond because the way I kind of think about it is if this person is taking time out of their day to say like a hateful comment on like to DM me and say something hateful
yeah,
or to comment on my post and say something hateful, like they must really be going through something tough in their life. Like what really is what like how sad or depressed must you really be with your own life if you are taking time out of your own day to write something hateful towards someone you've never met, you don't know anything about, and to just leave that comment there and be like, "Oh, like I'm funny," or like I hate this person, whatever. So I'm gonna leave this comment. And that's the thing with social media. Like hundreds of thousands of people do this. And it's like but at the end of the day, I kind of feel bad for these people who leave these hate comments. Um, because like they must really be going through something tough in their life if they feel the need that they need to put someone else down in their day and take time out of their own day to do that.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's well said. Especially someone like yourself who's like putting out such helpful content and trying to improve the fitness of everyone who kind of sees your profile and that sort of stuff. It's just yeah, the hate comments like that. It's bizarre that it happens. But yeah, you've answered that well. A couple of ones just before we kind of wrap up. Just one. Do you have when you're learning and that sort of stuff? Did you have a couple of people that you've kind of learned more off that maybe people can kind of like? Is it like a podcast or a YouTube or Instagram channel that maybe people can go and listen to that might help them as well, or is it kind of been a lot of different people?
Yeah, so If you're talking about just like online social media, like I'd
Yeah,
say one of
books,
one yeah,
all that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
one yeah, yeah. For me, honestly, one of the best sources was probably Greg Doucette. He's a well-known IFBB pro coach, competitor. Um, Probably gives some of the best information I've heard out there. And then just like honestly doing your research, reading articles online that are like by well accredited sources. Um, like stuff that has research backed by it. Like one of the biggest things I hear is like, for instance, like I started taking creatine,
Yeah,
and so like when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, like your kidneys are gonna like or explode. Like you just started taking creatine, your kidneys are gonna explode." It's like, come on, man, do your research. Like
yeah,
that is like the biggest myth. Like that is the biggest myth. Creatine is literally like the most researched
yeah,
supplement within the fitness industry. It's been studied for over a decade, and and people think, oh, it's okay to take protein powder, but it's not okay to take creatine. When
yeah,
it's like there is so like your creatine, there's like your protein powder probably has so much worse stuff
yeah.
than the creatine that you
Agreed.
take. Like so I wouldn't really go there. And especially like, for instance, like people saying like, oh, you take all these supplements, it's so bad for you or whatever, all this stuff. And it's like people are like, oh, so but you eating the 10 McDonald's burgers you do a day, that's healthy. That's healthy. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
drinking
like people,
drinking frothy,
yeah.
smoking darts.
Yeah, it's like I mean, if you really want to look at it, everyone in this world does something that's unhealthy.
Exactly.
But yeah, but I'd say for me the biggest person that I like watched when I was coming up was Bradley Martin, Greg Doucette, and just a lot of the big fitness influencers, watching them and kind of gaining information through them. But my top accredited source, probably Greg Doucette. He gives a lot of great information.
Yeah, sweet. That's good. I'll have a look at his thing and I'll put it on the YouTube channel and the Spotify so people can go and like click their links and stuff. So that'll be good. And I guess a couple more before we kind of wrap up. Just what are the goals and what's planned moving forward? With your training, with your business and stuff, and then I usually wrap up with a question at the end. So yeah, what is the goals moving forward?
So goals moving forward are probably for with training and all that kind of stuff, get bigger, get some more size, and then I've competed in 2 shows so far, both Men's Physique.
Yep.
My next show, which would be in like a year or so, I want to take like a year or so really off of training, off of competing to just really focus on my training,
Yep.
on my diet, all that kind of stuff, and gain as much muscle as possible, and then to eventually compete in classic physique, and to just really bring like the best package I can next year to stage, while also getting some good strength, some good size, and trying to do it as slow as possible, like slowly gaining the muscle, not gaining a lot of body fat, and then slowly cutting down for the show while not losing any muscle.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Do you feel? I guess just a quick question. Do you feel obviously what would be your optimal range? You were saying you did 9 week. Was it 9 week kind of preparation? What would be your optimal? Or what have you kind of learned anything from that you'd come in with a longer runway or a shorter? What do you think's more optimal for kind of the bodybuilding?
So my first show, I think I just started really low calorie. Like I started the 1900 calories and no carbs, probably
Yeah,
like 3 weeks out from the show,
yeah,
which is way too early. Like you're supposed to start that like a week and a half max out
yeah.
from the show, and so I lost a lot of size in that time frame. And just like obviously maybe giving myself a little more time, maybe, instead of 9 weeks, doing like 12 weeks, 10 weeks,
Okay. Yeah.
and just taking more time to slowly cut down rather than trying to do it as fast as possible.
And mate, that's the thing. I was just thinking that's how good that you can kind of obviously there's so much information and stuff out there, but going through it and coaching yourself, the kind of lessons that you will learn every time you kind of do it, you can kind of pick and choose like what worked well, what didn't. So that didn't work well, throw that away. That worked well, we'll keep that. What can I add? You know what I mean? It's just such a
Yeah, definitely.
good thing to be doing, especially just like coaching yourself and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, super well done for that, mate. And I guess the last question I always ask someone is, obviously we're trying to grow the podcast and all that sort of stuff. So The question is, who do you think? And I saw this. I don't know if you know. Do you follow basketball at all?
Not so much. I'm not really a big sports fan, honestly.
No, that's right. So I watched this podcast. It's called All the Smoke, and at the end of the show, so they asked this question, and I thought this would be a good way to help grow our podcast. It's so who do you think would be good for our podcast? But then the thing is that whoever you say, you have to try and get them on for us.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I should have let you know. But I usually let people know beforehand. I'm going to ask this question, so I don't put you on the spot.
Probably honestly, my friend Delaney. She's had a lot of success within this industry. Check her out on Instagram. Her Instagram. Let me just double check that name. It's like Delaney J Fit on Instagram. Let me check. Yeah, Delaney J Fit. That's DELA NEY J Fit. She's had a lot of success with fitness. Has a crazy story of how she started in fitness and everything. So I mean, she'd be like awesome to have on this podcast, I think.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Yeah, sweet. I'll send her a message on Instagram and maybe let her know that I'm gonna message her. Some guy from Australia is gonna send.
Okay, I'll call her this week and I'll let her know.
Cheers, mate. You're a ledge. But any final comments before we wrap up? Anyone like any advice or any kind of thing as we kind of say goodbye?
Honestly, the last piece of advice I'd want to say is this. A lot, like I said earlier, a lot of people are like, one of the most humbling things for me is which is humbling is saying, people are like, oh, I want to look like you. I want to have your physique. I want to look like you. Which I don't think is a very smart thing to say. I think people should take that idea out of their mind, right? It's okay, he's aesthetic and he looks crazy and he looks good, but it's like, but you should never set a goal to look like someone else, because when you do that, you're setting a goal that is physically impossible, because you're never going to look like someone else. It's like, yeah, he looks crazy, he looks good, but the only physique you should try to work towards is a better physique of the one that you have right now.
Yeah.
Like that's my piece of advice that I tell people. It's like, who are like, oh, I want to look like you. It's like, you're setting a goal that's physically impossible. We have different genetics. It's like you're never going to look like me because it's physically impossible.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Love it. That's great advice. Because that's the thing. People are looking on social media like, I want to look like him or her, but it's like you just want to be better than what you were yesterday or better than what we were last week.
Even I've had that downfall. I'd look at influencers and be like, oh, I want to look like that. And it's like, no, sure, yeah, he looks great and he looks amazing, but it's like the only physique that I work towards is a better physique of what I have right now.
Awesome, mate. No, awesome, and thanks so much for coming on the show. It's great to have you, and I think it's going to be a great podcast and lots of cool things we spoke about. So, thanks everyone for coming. Hope you enjoyed the chat, and we'll see you on the next episode. See you later.